90% of Canadians I speak to wait months to get the EIN or the employer identification number for the US corporation, whilst a small minority get it in less than a week. But that's not even the most surprising part. I'm going to share you a hidden method some use to get it the exact same day without having a US social security number. And no, it's got nothing to do with what you put in your application. It's how about you submit it to the IRS. Don't worry, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean. I'm also going to go through step by step the entire application process, including the top 3 mistakes most Canadians make that delays the EIN for the US corporation by months. Let's get started. Now, if you need an EIN for a US LLC, I explained that in this video. By the way, my name is Sal and I'm a CPA in Toronto, helping Canadians who own US corporations completely avoid double taxation. So what is an EIN and why do you need it? It's a 9-digit tax ID number by the IRS, kind of like a CRA business number. US banks need it, your payment processor needs it, you need it to open an Amazon or a Shopify marketplace. You also need it to file your taxes. Before we get into the process, a couple of prerequisites. You need to designate a responsible party. This can be yourself, it could be a family member or a friend. And no, they do not need to have a US Social Security number. They just need to be somebody who the IRS can contact. So let's get into the application process. So you're just going to go into Google and type in SS4, and that is the application for EIN. You're going to go to the second link, which is the PDF, and then that is the application for your employer identification number. You're going to type in the name of your entity, which is, let's say, John Doe Limited. You probably won't have a trade name, so you leave that out. The executor is going to be yourself, so you're going to put John Doe. The mailing address, now, if you have got a US corporation, you probably have a registered agent in that state, so you're just going to put their mailing address. So let's say you put 123 XYZ Street, Suite 200, city, let's say it's Sheridan in Wyoming. And then you're going to put the county and state where principal business is located. That's again going to be the same place where you have your registered agent in most cases. Scrolling down, the name of responsible party is just going to be yourself, John Doe. Now in question 7B, a lot of people get confused because they don't have an SSN or an ITIN in the United States. That's completely fine. You're just going to put foreign in here and that should be enough. Is it an application for LLC? No. Ignore question 8C because you didn't fill 8A. 9A is going to ask you what sort of entity do you have, and you're going to put corporation because you have a US C Corp. Enter the form number to be filed. That's going to be 1120. That is the corporate tax return for a corporation in the United States. So then it's going to ask you if you're a corporation, name the state where you're incorporated. You're going to put the state you did incorporate in, let's say it's Wyoming, and then you're going to come down and talk about the reason for applying. A lot of times it's going to be started a new business, but if it's not your first year, you could say banking purpose or whatever other reason suits you. So I'm just going to started a new business. For type, it's completely fine to just put a very vague high-level description. So you could just say online business. You're going to come down and then you're going to select the date that you incorporated the corporation. That's going to be in your articles. So let's say for you, it was October 01, 2025. The closing month of the accounting year, now you can decide to keep it either December or you can keep it a year from the incorporation. I generally suggest to clients to do keep it a year from the incorporation, so you're not rushing to file your taxes where everybody else is. So let's just say in this case, I would put September. Number of employees. Most cases, you're not going to have any employees, so you're just going to put 0 here. I do want to point out, I've seen this mistake happen. Folks put themselves as the employee. That is not a good option. Why? Because then, as you can see in question 14, if you do put yes, you're going to have to file these forms, and there's no requirement, there's no need to do that. You are the owner of the C Corp. You don't have to declare yourself as an employee. So you're just going to put 0, 0, and 0. And you're going to skip question 14 because it talks about employees. Coming down, again, this is talking about employees, so you're going to skip this. Question 16 is asking you about the type of business you're in. So if any of these apply to you, by all means select that. If not, just go to other and say, let's say you're going to say website development as your business. Principal line of merchandise. So again, you're going to say websites. Have you ever applied for an EIN? No. Now, below that is the third-party designee. Most cases you won't need that, but if you do want to put your accountant in there, by all means, you can do that. And then you're going to scroll down and you're going to put your name and your title. So you're going to put name and then you would say owner. You're going to sign and date, and then you're going to put your telephone number. So let's say 416-416-4160. And then you're going to put your fax number. Now, this is not a must, but it's good to have a fax number. You can easily get a fax number. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But you can put that here, or you could leave it blank. We obviously have a fax number, so whenever we're doing an EIN application for our clients, we definitely put our fax number in there so that the IRS can contact us. How to get a fax number? You literally just go on Google and you can say, put online fax, and there's a ton of options for you to select. $10 a month, $3 a month, and just get an online fax for a couple of months. So that's really it. Now let's talk about how to send this form in. So I'm going to go to my friend Google and I'm going to search SS4 instructions, and I'm going to click on this first link. Then I'm going to scroll down to page 2. And that tells me what fax number to use to fax my EIN application. Since your business is incorporated in one of the states of the United States, you're going to select this fax number. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to go, and then I need to find the fax service. So if you've not already chosen a fax service and you don't want to get locked into something for a couple of months, you can literally get a free fax service. Just go in here and search free fax. Again, you're going to get a ton of options. Let's just go to this one. And over here, I'm going to put my information and the receiver's information. So my information would be John Doe. I don't have to put a company. I'm going to put John Doe at Gmail. I'm going to put my phone number. So then I'm going to put the receiver's information. That's going to be Internal Revenue Service. And I'm going to put their fax number, which we just copied over. And literally, I'm just going to attach the EIN application, the SS4 form. And I'm going to put EIN application. I'm going to put the CAPTCHA code, and off I go. I can select free fax, or I can just pay a couple of dollars and get priority delivery. So whichever option you want to select, and you can send it off to the IRS. I would suggest sending a fax for a couple of days, one by one. So let's say you send a fax on Monday, I would definitely follow it up with another fax on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's because I've seen cases where IRS has not received them. It could be the issue with the faxing company or with the IRS. You don't want to have your EIN application delayed. Usually they can take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, but I've seen in the cases of around Christmas time, where I'm guessing a lot of e-commerce store owners are propping up, it can even take 6 to 8 weeks. I did mention at the start that I'm going to show you a way to get an EIN the same day. It is not a method that I recommend, and I don't think you should do it. But because some people are doing it, I just want to put it out there. When we filled out this form and we were going to fax it, there is another option. You can actually call the IRS and get an EIN for a foreign company the same day. So what they do is they go to the IRS website and they grab their phone number, which is here, for foreign applicants. They call them from Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. They call the phone number and pretend to be a foreign company. Again, I don't recommend that. So for example, they would just call the IRS, say, hey, I'm John Doe. I want to get an EIN for my foreign corporation. And then wherever they ask you about information for your corporation, you pretend it as if it's in a different country. So in 9A, when you're asked what type of entity it is, they'll put other, and they'll say foreign corporation. And then they would also, when asked about name of country, they would put NA in the state, and they would put Canada or whatever, right? Again, I don't recommend this, but this is what some people do if they're in an urgency to get their EIN. So I did want to talk about some of the common mistakes folks make when putting in your EIN application. One is not knowing to put foreign in question 7b. Second, not knowing that they have to put 1120 here as the US corporate tax return form number. The third is usually putting an employee in here where they should really be putting 0. And fourth, smaller point, but putting too much information. The IRS doesn't need to know that much information about your business. Keep it as vague and as high level as possible so that you're not exposing too much of your business information. The last thing I would say is the biggest mistake folks make is not being persistent in follow-up. As mentioned, I would fax them a couple of times. I would call them a week later to make sure that they have received your EIN application. And this would definitely expedite your application, but it will also make sure that if they haven't received it, so you know, and you can fax it again. You definitely want to get your EIN up as soon as possible so you can get your bank account, you can get your e-commerce store open if that's what you're applying for, and you can really start making money and starting to take your business to the next level. That's it for today. If you like this video, hit subscribe and share it with somebody, and definitely let me know in the comments if you need anything similar. See you in the next one.